Hello, lovely teachers. Welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is the weekly show on YouTube where we talk about all things music teaching. The first one of every month, which is what this is open to everyone. And then the rest of the month are for members of Vibrant Music Teaching only. So if you're a member and you want to come along next week, watch out in your inbox, your email inbox, or in the member calendar for the link to join us for that. But if you're not a member, you can still enjoy one a month if it's not the right fit for you to join right now. So, few bits of news before we get into today's topic. We're talking all about recording lessons. So do let me know, have you recorded lessons before? Like taken videos of your own lessons? Are you planning to participate in the Epic Clip Contest? vibrantmusicteaching.com/epic. If you haven't heard of it, you could win $1,000. One person's going to win $1,000 or the equivalent in your currency. It's not US based. And you could also learn a lot about your teaching. So that's really why we're talking about recording videos of your lessons today. But first, a few bits of news and announcements. So many of you will have heard me talk about the Keys and Trees event that I'm doing next June. This is a small group retreat. It's going to be about 10 teachers only. And so a few of the spots have already gone. It's just over 10 teachers, like 12 or something. Anyway, a few of the spots have already gone. So here's what's left, just in case you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to register for that. And you're like, because I know a few people have told me, oh yeah, I'm going to get to that. I'm definitely planning on coming. If you're definitely planning on coming, you do need to book a ticket. So we have 3 solo rooms left, meaning you could book that to bring a +1, like your spouse or a friend or whoever who's not a teacher, and you want to share the bed with them. So you can bring a +1 or you can book it just as a solo person. And then we have 3 spots left for shared rooms, meaning you're going to be paired up with someone, another teacher, and you're going to share a room with them. That's it. 3 solo rooms left, 3 shared room spaces left, and then it'll be gone. So I just wanted to throw out that warning in case you were thinking, oh, I'll book it next February. I don't think that's going to be possible. And I can't expand it. It's a house. We're all staying together. It is the size that it is, and it needs to be kept very small. Secondly, I want to remind you about our practice survey again. So our practice survey you can get to at vibrantmusicteaching.com/practice. And I would really appreciate you sharing that with any teachers, but especially music parents and music students that you know. So the practice survey is really important because we're going to be putting together this free report for us all. The survey itself takes only 3 minutes. Really does take under 3 minutes. I have the stats to prove it. And so it's not a huge ask, but if we can get enough data, we can create a really meaningful report that we all get to learn from. So we are going to be closing that on October 14th. So now is a really great time to share it with students and parents so they still have a bit of time to fill it out, just under 2 weeks before we close it. I would really like to get a few more responses before we close it, but we do need to close it to create the report and make it all beautiful and pie charts and loveliness, lovely things that I love putting together, and I know you love reading as well. So again, that's vibrantmusicteaching.com/practice for that one. And then quickly I want to mention that we have 2 new YouTube channels. So this is obviously my main channel, and this will continue to be the main channel and where we post the most stuff. However, we have 2 new channels for specific reasons. So one new one is the Vivid Practice channel. So if you search YouTube for @Vivid Practice, VIVID Practice, you'll come across that channel, and you can subscribe there to get short little clips. They're like under 10-minute videos generally that I'm posting there with little practice tips. So practice teaching ideas, practice tips to pass on to students, stuff like that. And there's also a podcast now of that as well. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast or both or whatever you prefer, but the podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the usual podcast places. But since you're on YouTube right now, you probably like YouTube. So go subscribe to the channel, which is Vivid Practice. And then we also have another YouTube channel, which is new, which has nothing on it yet, but I still would love you to subscribe. So that is at Music Lesson Clips. And that is where we're going to post the videos from the Epic Clip Contest. So they're going up in November, on November 6th, when the contest is closed. The Epic Clip Contest is an opportunity for you to submit an under 10-minute clip of your lesson, so a recording of your teaching. And everyone who submits an eligible video, one that has the proper permission form attached, is in the running to win $1,000. Because I really want to incentivize teachers to get going with recording their lessons, but also put these clips out there so that we can all see different styles of teachers and teaching and different student responses, and we can just learn so much if we put this together. So that's what that channel is going to be. It is at Music Lesson Clips, as I said, and it only has a few subscribers so far because there's nothing on it. But here's the thing about YouTube that you probably don't care about, but yeah, take it from me, we have to get to 100 because there's a whole lot of stuff that YouTube just doesn't let us do until we get to 100. So even though there's nothing there, I would really appreciate you subscribing, because when there is stuff there, you're going to love it, because it's going to be clips of lessons. And the earlier we can get to 100, the better off we are to do various things on that channel to put those clips up. Does that make sense? So please subscribe to both of those. I would really appreciate it, and appreciate you helping us getting to the first 100. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't really do anything to your life. All you need to do is click a couple of times and that's it. So thank you for the cheering on. I appreciate it. So let's get into some things about recording your lessons, because that's what you need to do to be in the running to win that $1,000 prize. And the form with all the details is vibrantmusicteaching.com/epic. So if you have questions about the recording process, please ask me. If you've experienced that you want to share, please share that as well. I have learned so much about my own teaching from recording it and watching it. And no, it is not fun. Nobody likes it. Don't think that just because I show up on video all the time, I love looking at myself. I absolutely don't. Nobody does. Nobody enjoys listening to their own voice, but it does get easier and it is worth it. So the reason it's worth it is because I can tell you, or various different teachers of teachers can tell you different things about communication and how to do lesson pacing and planning and all of this. But when it comes down to it, a lot of that is hard to put into action until you see you doing it. And where you're, not quite making the mark, or where you're doing it in a different way than another teacher that may or may not be right or wrong. I mean, there's many different right ways to do something, but that's where you can see where you can make these incremental improvements. And a lot of teaching is that. And I think it especially is that for us teaching private music lessons, because in general we have, I'm going to say 20 to 60 minutes with students a week. The 20 is some teachers who teach in schools only get a very short window to teach students. But let's say, the average teacher has 30 and 45-minute lessons. So that's a kind of window. It's not a lot of time. We don't have time to faff around, to forget what comes next. We can do that to some degree, but the more of it we can remove without aiming for perfection, okay? If we can remove these pauses and these bits of wasted time where we were saying something that a student was just never going to connect to, then we can improve our teaching so much and actually claw back so much time. One of the biggest questions I get from teachers about my lesson plans and, looking at stuff that I do is, how do you fit all that in? And the truth is, a lot of this is how I fit it in. It's because I've watched so much of my own teaching, so I know how to edit myself before I say anything. And I don't want to say the right thing or the perfect thing, but I'd say the thing that has the best chance of landing for that student based on my experience. This is the quickest shortcut that there is. There's no shortcuts in teaching. You need to get experience. You need to be thrown into lessons. That's why I mentor young teachers here at the studio. You need to be thrown in and do it. That's the only way to get better. But if there is a fast track, it is recording yourself and watching yourself back. And I've seen this not only in my teaching, but in all the teachers that work here. So at Colourful Keys, teachers have to record all of their lessons for 3 weeks out of the year. We have 3 separate recording weeks, and this just so happens to be one of them. I put these in our calendar in advance, and it's just non-negotiable. We just record all the lessons. Unless there's some specific case where a student would be uncomfortable recording that lesson, and that's fine. But in general, we record everything for that week. And then, guess what we have to do? We have to watch it, and we have to comment on it. So, some tips for getting you started so that you can take part in the Epic Clip contest, hopefully maybe win $1,000, or there's 2 runners-up that will be able to book a consultation call with me. So we have 3 prizes up for grabs. And even if you don't win, you will win so much learning about your own teaching. So, tech setups. Now, you can absolutely, I'm not going to lift it up, but you can absolutely use a cup. I'm not going to lift my cup because it's very full right now, and I know I will spill everything. I should have brought an empty cup, but I didn't. But like a pen cup, you know what a cup looks like, and you pop your phone inside it, and that will hold it still. That will do in a pinch. Now, it is going to mean that your phone is portrait. For the Epic Clip contest, we would prefer that it was this way, that it was horizontal or landscape, because we're going to post the videos on YouTube, and also because in my experience of recording lessons, you can see better in landscape in the context of a piano lesson, because when you do it this way, you're going to end up pointing it down the piano and you're going to cut off people's faces. You likely won't get a good view where you can see the piano and the people. And that is what we want. So ideally landscape, but if it has to be portrait, that is acceptable for the contest too, and you'll still be able to watch it and learn a ton about your teaching. Now, so you can balance it on books and in cups and use various props that you already have. You don't need anything fancy. If you do want something that's going to make it a little bit easier, you can pick up a simple tripod. So this is like a selfie stick tripod. I never use it as a selfie stick because I'm just not that kind of person. But it's called a selfie stick because it comes with a remote as well. Any little mini tripod will do. This one is not the best, so I'm not going to provide links today because I see flaws with this one. So I would prefer you to go to Amazon or wherever you buy things yourself and pick one out. But it'll look something like this. The thing I would watch out for is that this is able to turn, so you can do portrait or landscape. Okay? And that it's nice and stable, so it has something, yeah, and then it goes up as well. The reason I don't like this one is because of this, right? So I'll show you what happens. You push it down, and these go together, and then you have to like wrangle them open again. So it's a little bit awkward, but it absolutely does the trick. These are not expensive, but again, you don't have to buy one. It's just if you feel it would make your life easier and you really want to get into recording things. You also don't have to be using your phone. It's just what most people have on hand, but you can use an iPad, an old phone, or a camera. I actually have this little camera. I can't show you because it's in the lesson room. As I mentioned, we're recording lessons this week, so I can't take it out of the room. But it is a little Sony camera that is no longer in production that has a little mic on the front of it. It's a very simple little camera that I just happen to have for other reasons. And we use that. It is great because it just It can record for hours and hours and hours. And then this is the only thing I put on it. So the only issue with using your own phone is you have to be careful of storage space. Okay? So if you're going to use your phone, make sure you've cleared up a huge amount of storage space and go into your video settings and maybe make sure they're not on the highest. It depends on your phone, but if you have like a newish smartphone, it may even have 4K, which is just really high resolution if you don't know what that means. It's so unnecessary. Sure, you can record your lessons in 4K, but you just don't need to, and it'll make the file size enormous. So I'd recommend turning that down to like 1080 or 1080p. Again, if you don't know what these things mean, that's fine. You don't have to mess with any of this. But if you find your phone is just filling up really fast, it could be that your resolution is just set too high or that your phone is full. So look into one of those two things. So you want to set up some kind of device that's going to record. You need some way to keep it stable and use the back camera. Make sure you wipe it, especially if you are poking your camera like I am. Make sure you wipe the lens. Use your back camera, not your selfie camera. The reason I'm saying that's Tofu, by the way, my dog. The reason I'm saying that is because the students will watch themselves if it's on the selfie mode. You absolutely don't want that. It's also better quality on the back camera, but even without the quality issue, I would never want to have the video showing, because students will be so distracted, self-conscious, or just interested, and that will absorb everything in their brain. They won't be able to concentrate on anything else. So that's kind of the setup. Now you want to have the light behind the camera. So you can think about it like this. I'm looking right now at my camera, obviously, that's how you're seeing me. And my light is also there. Right, so I have big photography lights in the office here. It's also there. So that's where you want the window to be. If you were looking into the camera, the window would also be in front of you. Does that make sense? You don't want the light to be the other side, so behind me, because then you won't be able to see the person. It'll be all dark because that light is just washing everything out and making the camera confused, essentially. So light in front of you, behind the camera set up with something stable, and that's it. Now, and again, try to make it horizontal if you can. Now, you may be tempted to think, oh, today I'm teaching Susie and I'm doing a really interesting chord exercise with Susie, so I'll just record that. No. Record everything. There's a reason we just record all of our lessons for a week. You capture the good and the bad and the ugly, but you also capture these magical moments that you didn't know were going to happen. And if you only record the lesson with Susie where you're planning the chord thing, well, you might find that doesn't go exactly as planned, and then you're disappointed about the video. So if you just record everything, you're going to be better off. That's why you do need to save a lot of space on whatever device it's going to be recorded on. You also need to set aside some time to watch it and to edit. Okay? So, separate things. Watching first. Even if you're going to submit for the Epic Clip Contest and you have that in mind, please watch all of your lessons before you think about the submission and the editing. Okay? As you're watching, try to step back away from yourself and pretend you're not you. And comment, like write little notes to yourself as if you're writing to another teacher. So imagine you're me. So when my teachers record all their lessons here, I watch all of them and comment on them. Imagine you're in that scenario. Imagine this is a teacher who is under your care, because you are under your care, and write notes about what they could improve. And you can be prioritizing, right? You're not going to say, well, this was all garbage to another teacher, but you might be that rude to yourself, at least in your head, if not on paper. Please try not to be. Please try to just watch it make little notes of, this is what I said. A lot of my commenting I do on teachers' videos here, I do tend to end up quoting them. So I'll say, like, in this lesson, when you were doing this thing, when you're doing scales with Susie again, you said this, and I'll quote what they said. This could be, like, you could edit this to this, and it's fewer words. So you can literally rewrite yourself. You're not expecting to reproduce that exactly in the next time in the same scenario. It's not that we're preparing our lessons to that degree, but by editing yourself after the fact, you will learn to edit yourself on the go as well. So record everything for at least a day of lessons, hopefully a week, hopefully several weeks, but anyway, record at least a day, and then set aside the time, because it does take time, obviously, to watch it back. Now, you can kind of skip forward over little bits and pieces. You don't have to watch them all, but I do think it's useful to watch in real time rather than like fast forwarding or like watching it 2x or anything. So try and come up with something you can do at the same time if you're going to get a bit fidgety. If you're not like that and you will be happy to just sit there and watch the lessons and learn from that, that's fine. But you want to give yourself, if you are a bit fidgety, you want to give yourself something to do with your hands that leaves your brain free. So you don't want to set up the lesson recordings on your computer, have them playing, and yet you're just scrolling Instagram. Because then you won't actually learn anything from watching your lessons. You're not going to learn from the experience. However, if you can give yourself something that uses your hands but not your brain, that might allow you to focus better. So I will be watching lessons, and sometimes I will be doing artwork for games, so it's a visual thing. I have enough of my brain free to be able to watch the lessons. You could also be cleaning, you could be crafting, you could be doodling, right? Something that's going to help you. But I would think of it like this. Anything that you could listen to a podcast and do, you can probably do that, because you don't have to watch the visual as much as you need to listen carefully to what's happening. And then when something comes up, you'll pause it and look, hey, what's the expression on the student's face? Cutting edge game materials from BMT, a great suggestion. Yes. So anything like that, the ironing, right? People who have to do a lot of ironing. Fun fact, I used to iron all the things in our house as a teenager, not because I was given it as a chore, but I like volunteered that was the thing I would help with, because you could just watch TV and iron, and then you got like, credit for doing something that really, to me at the time, was no effort. And there was so much ironing because we all had school uniforms with white shirts, so they all had to be ironed all the time. So maybe it's ironing, maybe it's cleaning, maybe this is the thing that convinces you to clean the oven. Get two things, feed two birds out of one hand, right? Whatever it is, find a way that you can focus on the lesson. So don't let it be that you scroll your phone at the same time, because you won't learn anything. And I do recommend having an open text document that's just plain, like a Google Doc, or writing by hand notes about what you're learning from watching yourself. Then you can edit. So you might take a note as you're going through, or you might go back and do this later. But if you see something as you're watching just to learn, and you think, actually, those 7 minutes were pretty good. Or when I did that particular thing, that went pretty well. Or I think it was interesting because they responded in this way, right? It doesn't have to be that it went perfectly. We're not looking for perfection. The Epic Clip Contest is not judged based on how great your lesson is, okay? It's just drawn randomly from eligible people. So you don't have to be the best teacher. You just have to show something that you think, I'd be happy for this to be on YouTube, and I think other teachers could learn something from this. So you can make little notes about the time, but don't edit as you go. And then later you're going to go back and edit whatever way is easiest for you. All you're going to need to do for your editing is to cut the end and the beginning off your clip, right? You're just going to have to cut out these 7 minutes or whatever you've chosen. So use the simplest tool for you that will let you do that. It might be what's built into your phone. Personally, I can get quite frustrated with editing using like the built-in iPhone majigger, because you have to slide it, and like it's an iPhone mini, it's a small screen and it's super annoying. To me, it's much easier to do that on a computer. So if I'm just chopping the ends off a video, I will do that in QuickTime in Mac. You can just use edit trim in QuickTime if you're using a Mac and just slide them in and it's done. And it's so simple. Or it could be another tool, literally whatever seems easiest to you, but you actually don't need the likes of iMovie or some kind of proper editing software to just chop out a clip, and that's all we want to do. That's it. So if you have any trouble uploading to the Epic Clip contest, it will be because your file's too big, likely. And the biggest culprit for that is MOV files, which are what Apple generates most of the time. So rather than your file name ending in MP4, it'll end in MOV. And they're just like 4 to 10 times the size of MP4 files. So if you are having trouble with file size, just a little tip, look up MOV to MP4 converter and convert it, and you should be fine. We've made the file limit quite high, but still I know some phones and things will record something that's just ridiculously large and we can't upload that. So if you're having trouble, that's one thing to look at. Now, final few tips, and if you've any questions, do let me know. The first one is to just get over yourself. I feel like this is a tip for so much of life. We just need to get over ourselves. People aren't looking at you the way you look at you. So if you're thinking, oh, when people watch this video, I'm going to try and pick a silly example, think that my fingernails are such an ugly shape, or whatever it is that you have a hang up about, right? They just won't. They're just not going to think that. They're going to watch it and think about the teaching, and they're also going to be thinking about themselves, because that's what people do. They don't think about you, they think about them. So please don't let physical appearance or the sound of your voice or some silly thing like that bug you to the point where you don't submit for this. You could win $1,000 and you're going to let your fingernails stand in the way of that, right? It's just not worth it. Life's too short to care about these things. So we just need to get over it sometimes. And I know that can be easier said than done, but it does get easier with time. So if you keep recording videos of your teaching and keep watching yourself, you'll get used to how you sound coming out of a speaker rather than inside your own head, right? And you'll get used to what things look like. And hopefully you can just get over yourself about it in the nicest possible way. And remember, please, that good is good enough. We are not looking for perfect teaching. I specifically do not want to see clips that look really prepared or rehearsed. That's not the point of this at all. You know, when you go to a conference or something, I'm not naming any or shaming anyone because I still think we can gain stuff from this too. But at some conferences, they have teaching demonstrations, and the student almost always, knows exactly what to do instantly. Like there's barely any teaching that has to happen. And so it doesn't end up being the best example of teaching because they don't bring a student into that scenario. And I understand why, because we don't want to put a kid in that position and try to teach them something they've never learned before. But actually we can learn a lot more if we see students really learning, right? And teachers really teaching. We all know those students who we barely have to teach. Do we learn to become a better teacher with the student who just says, oh yeah, I get it, or yeah, you told me that term one time and I've remembered it? No, we become a great teacher teaching all different kinds of students who respond in different ways. So that's what I want to see in this, and I really hope that you won't let perfect be the enemy of the good or the interesting, because that's all we're looking for in this contest. We're not looking for any particular quality in your clip. We're just looking for examples of real teaching so that we can all learn from each other. Serena, will videos be disqualified if they've been filmed in selfie mode? No. I prefer them like this, but if it has to be like this, or if you've already recorded like this, that's fine. Oh, and selfie mode like that? No. Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. There's no requirements, just recommendation to record in landscape mode. That's all. It's not in the T's and C's because it's not a requirement. Oh, yeah. Gosh, those MOV files, right? I know, I mean, there's less compression and whatever, but for sharing, they are not convenient. Okay, any other questions about filming? Let me know. I would really love to see tons of clips entered for this, because you can win this prize, and I hope we have a huge pool to draw this lottery from, but also because I just want to see these clips go out there. And it's not... I put it on a separate channel to keep things organized, but also I hope it makes it clear that this is not any kind of promotional anything. It's not some kind of ploy. It's a completely separate channel. You know, it's not promoting this channel or the membership or anything. It's just going to be a resource that we can all learn from for free on YouTube. If YouTube ever goes away, I'll put it somewhere else. Yeah, so it's just meant to be a resource for teachers to be able to watch real lessons. Because think back, even if you don't care about the $1,000, and I mean, good for you if you're that rich, but even if you don't care about the $1,000, let's think back to when you first started teaching. For me, I was 15 years old. Maybe you were 22, maybe you were 45, but you taught that first lesson having only ever seen, in most cases, your own lessons. Like, you were only seeing lessons from the perspective of being a student and having your teacher. And then you go into a room and you're the teacher now. And you've never seen anyone else teach. Never. Let's change that. I mean, let's just make it easier, right? And all the teachers of the future will be better off. That's what I'm hoping for. There's requirements for what you need to call the file. So it's written on the form there. You need to put like your name and then a description of the lesson, roughly. There's also where you can select the topic, and we'll be tagging the videos with the topic you've selected. So yeah, but you don't have to write some lengthy description or anything like that, but we do ask that the file name have, you know, something to identify it. So it says Nicola Canton lesson working on the circle of fifths or something, right? Okay, so those are all my tips for recording. Now you just need to get to it. And it is nerve-wracking in the beginning, and it's possibly more nerve-wracking the first time you watch yourself, and maybe cringe-making, but you just need to get over yourself, get to it, work through the discomfort, and know that it's worth it, and it will get easier with time, and you'll become a better teacher. I mean, what better reason is there to do it? This is the best way to get better. Literally the best. Better than anything I could do for you is you filming yourself and watching yourself. So I hope that you'll do it. If you have follow-up questions, let us know. We're always happy to help. And I hope the recording process goes as smoothly as possible for you. If you're a member of Vibrant Music Teaching, I'll see you back here next week, same time. But you'll need to grab the link from your email because it is a private stream that's just for members. I'll see you then, and I hope you have a great week.